Laura, you most likely will get a big attendance because a lot of people are probably interested to how this is all going to work. So,
I hope so. I'm seeing lots of folks signing on, so that's good. I know, as I said before, is last minute, but everything is right now for
Yeah.
everything and everybody. So we're sort of used to that. Still doesn't make it any easier sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen though and kind of get that go. Well, no, actually I'm gonna wait to do that.
I'm looking at everybody's faces. Don't share your screen yet.
Yeah, let's not do that yet because I do want to, I want to take, I know we have a lot of people online and I said the training was going to try to keep it to 45 minutes, but at the same time, I also want to give us an opportunity to go around and kind of pick one person from each sort of program and just say really quick. I don't know how we'll do that because we got multiple people for multiple programs, but just kind of give us a rundown of like who's here and what program are you presenting. And it's 3:01 and I know folks are still signing in, but I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. And I also have 3 other members of the program committee on with me today, so I'll let them introduce themselves. So my name is Lori Sabata. I'm with the ACUHO-I Central Staff. I've been working with the program committee for the ACUHO-I conference, or the big conference, the national conference, and all the other conferences and all other kinds of things for, it's been 10 years now. So here we are with a virtual summit, the first of its kind. So we're going to spend some time together today talking about what that's going to look like and how we as presenters are going to pull that off. So Marcus, I'm going to throw it over to you to introduce yourself.
good afternoon, everybody. Nice to see everybody. My name is Marcus Silver with the University of Central Florida, and I currently serve as the ACUHO-I Programming Chair for 2020. It's a unique experience the past couple of weeks with going from a conference in Portland to moving everything to a virtual summit. But we are very thankful for you to be here and for representing ACUHO-I. Erica.
Well, do we want to do the program committee first? So we'll jump over to Stuart and
Perfect.
then Melissa and then
Stuart, go ahead.
Everybody, my name's Stuart Robinette. I'm the chair-elect for the program committee. Thank you all so much for being able to present this year and just reading all of your submissions. It's an exciting year with the presentations and the knowledge that you all are going to be imparting to others.
thanks, Stuart. And then we have Melissa online. She might not be quite signed in yet. So what I wanted to try to do, and I know we have a lot of folks online and we have multiple presenters from the different programs, but I thought maybe it might be interesting for people to hear just maybe one person from each sort of group to just say, hey, I'm here and this is the program that we're going to be presenting, so everyone else can kind of hear that. I thought that might be interesting. So I'll just let anyone jump in. Erica, do you want to start?
Sure. Hi, all. My name is Erica Barton, and I will be presenting a session on examining white supremacy cultural norms in the fabric of our organizations, which is actually connected to a research project that just got research endorsement from ACUHO-I yesterday.
Sounds great.
All right, and I'll just kind of let people just kind of jump in. Just go for it. Whoever wants to go next.
I can go. Hi, everyone. My name is David Grimes. I'm from the New School in New York City. I am going to be co-presenting a session called Influencing Change as a Mid-Level Manager with my colleague, Michael Cherry from NC State.
Hi all, I'm Mallory Sedaris. I'm from Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, and I'm going to be presenting on supervising and professional development of operations staff.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Dave Vanderwerf with VMDO Architects, and I'll be joined by Seth Weinshell from George Washington University. We'll be talking about designing residential spaces for health and wellness.
Hi, everyone. My name is Hillary Karen, and I am from Boston University, and I am also joined by my colleague, Maggie Sawada. I don't know if you want to wave. There you go. And we are co-presenting a session on individual and community resilience after trauma, grief, and adversity.
Good afternoon. I'm Kathy Hobgood from Clemson University, and I'm serving as primary presenter for a program with Virginia Commonwealth University, Megan, and our colleagues at Air St. Gross on our big idea projects that transformed campus. So it's a little bit about how architecture and the partnerships, both on campus and off campus, can shape transformation.
And hi, everyone. Like Kathy said, I'm Megan Becker. I'm from Virginia Commonwealth University, and I serve as the primary presenter for Nevertheless, She Persisted, How Women Rise. I'm co-presenting with Kathy Hobgood and Chandra Myrick. So it's a specific kind of women in leadership discussion, as well as focusing specifically on the book, How Women Rise.
Hey, I'm Drew Alves. I'm from Union College in Schenectady, New York, and I'm presenting on First Gen mentorship.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, rather. My name is Julian Batts. I am from George Washington University, work very closely with Stuart. I will be presenting on digital community development, particularly with on-campus spaces.
Hi, my name's Dan Frank. I'm with HKS Architects. We'll be presenting with UC San Diego on our North Torrey Pines Living and Learning neighborhood. Lakshmi Chilakuri is here as well. She'll be representing UC San Diego in the presentation. It will discuss how a large-scale project, capital project, can enhance the living and learning experience for students and sustainability. Lakshmi, would you like to add anything to that?
Pretty much all you said, Dan. We are looking forward to moving into a new purpose-built environment, and we are studying both the baseline of where we're coming from and where we're moving to, and looking at how it increases interactions, how it increases student well-being, physical activity, all of that. So I think it's something unusual, something new. This is going to serve as a model for other building we're doing on campus. So,
kind of a living lab, a study as a living lab.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Fallon Thacker, and I'm from the University of Central Florida. Myself, April Convalinka, Arian Bryan, and Marcus Silver, we're all here. We'll be presenting on our new residence hall that we opened on UCF's new campus this year, which is in downtown Orlando, and our partnership with Valencia College, in which we house both UCF students and Valencia College students, almost a 50-50 split, and our partnership with Valencia, as well as our P3 owners that own the property.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry, go ahead, Lynn.
Lynn Denninger with Canna Design. We are co-presenting with Alma Celine from University of Illinois about how to deal with your construction project when it hits the financial wall. We actually we're doing a major renovation on their campus of 2 towers, and it hit a really bad time spot for a bidding issue. And so we've been working with them to move the project forward in a way that is successful for students and the school at the same time, to make sure they get the project that they need, and perhaps look at some phasing associated with it.
Jason Taylor, good afternoon, everyone from American Campus. I'll be presenting on the drivers of disruptive change in higher ed and their implications for student housing and other campus facilities with Dr. TJ Logan from Temple University, along with Jessica Figgenholtz from Perkins and Will, and Sydney Schroeder, a junior in high school at Niles West High School in Illinois.
Hi, everybody. Stuart Robinette and I, this is Kate Byer from New York University, and Stuart Robinette and I will be presenting on understanding and leading organizational change.
Good afternoon. My name is Chandra Myrick. I'm at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. I will be presenting on the topic of Black women leadership in housing and residence life. And I will be co-presenting with LaFarren Merriweather at University of North Carolina, Greensboro, Stephanie Carter from Wake Forest University, and Helena Gardner from Colorado State University.
All right. Did we get
Oh,
everybody?
no. My name's Ashley Brand. I'm from Arizona State University, and I'm at the Barra Honors College. I'm also here with my colleague, Elise Crow, and we were actually presenting about how the days of Facebook are gone, so how to engage students through social media, so really meeting where they're at through using short videos, influencers, eye-catching graphics, and kind of going to Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn, Pinterest, so kind of just exploring all the different channels of social media, which I feel like we almost need to redo our presentation given these last couple months, how we've been all virtual. So so I feel like we have a lot of pressure on our shoulders right now, but we will do it.
Hi everyone, my name is Brooke Ellerman and I'm from Purdue University here in Indiana, and I'm co-presenting with Tim Mulligan of Grand Valley State in Michigan. We're presenting on The Age of Overwhelm, which is a book by Laura Vandernoot-Lipsky, and it's about the cause of the dramatic overwhelm we're experiencing as a society lately and actual items we can take to both calm ourselves and help change the world.
Did we get everyone? I'm really bad at that pause that I need to have sometimes to wait for folks to jump in, but if I missed anyone, I'm sorry, but thank you for doing that. Just hearing all of that, I just feel really just inspired, and I'm excited that we're just going to have so much good content for the summit. So I'm going to go ahead and show my screen then and get started on this. So let me do that. Okay, so you should be seeing my title slide. Just want to check that you're seeing the welcome slide, purple and white slide. I'm seeing nods, so that's good. So I did it right. All right, so I'd like to welcome everyone again. I wanted to kind of start out by saying that we are recording this session. And right after this, I'll be sending out the link and the slide deck and whatever kind of resources we may have. I'll send this out to you so that you can review them, or if you had co-presenters who couldn't make it today, that'll make it easier for you to share that with them. And I did send out, just shortly before this meeting, I sent out some Zoom backgrounds. Those aren't mandatory. They're just kind of, if you're able to use a Zoom background and you want to use one, go ahead and do it. And I see a couple of folks have those up already. So I did send those out, and I'll be sending out the PowerPoint template that this presentation is created on as well, so you'll be able to use that. So, so I want to start by just talking about in general, just tips for virtual engagement. So for some of us, this may be completely new. Some of us may be sort of kind of used to presenting online and Zoom and sort of the technology associated with that. And some, you know, it may be completely new, and there may be some people in between. So we're probably at all different levels of proficiency at doing this, but I think that there's some engagement tips that I can share that I think will help us. And I think someone mentioned earlier too that as far as the content goes, within respect to all of the different things that have happened in the last few months, in the last few weeks, how to incorporate, not saying that it's absolutely necessary to, but I think in some cases it's very important to incorporate some of those ideas into what we're going to be saying. So I wanted to bring that up too. And so my quote here kind of says, in order to be engaging, it must be interactive. That might be a little bit strong. I think what I'm really trying to say there is that what we want to try to avoid doing is, okay, we're saying we have 45 minutes of content. What are some things we can do to help have some peer-to-peer interaction and help make that as engaging as possible? And I know we're all kind of throwing around the term Zoom fatigue, and I think most of us have experienced that at some point in you know, the past few weeks and probably before that. So how do we combat that? So I'm going to go over a couple of tips. And I want to take a poll, and I'm going to go ahead and try to launch this poll successfully. So I'm going to launch a poll. and you should be seeing that. So go ahead and click away. This is a question about Zoom, and I'm two goals by doing this. One is practicing my polling skills and just kind of, if you haven't seen a poll on Zoom before, just showing how it can be used. And I am kind of curious too, even though this isn't technically, this isn't a Zoom training, it's more like presentation training. But I am kind of curious to see how people are feeling about this virtual format. So I'll just wait a couple minutes and let that give you some time to react to that. All right, so it looks like everyone's kind of done with that. I'm going to go ahead and end it and share the results. So my interpretation of that is most folks, we have some pros in there, yay. Maybe those pros, if you can share some tips of either things I'm doing wrong or things I could be doing or should be doing or anything you want to share with the others, please feel free to jump in to share those things. I'm going to add on to anything that I might be saying or that others might say. But it looks like a lot of folks are real close to where I am and kind of like, I know enough to get by and I'm kind of okay at it. And we don't have any real newbies, but if you are a newbie, that's okay too. So I'm going to go ahead and close that poll. All right, so one of the first things I kind of want to starting with having the end in mind. So originally, months ago when you submitted this program, the world was a very different place, and we were, thinking about having a 50-minute live in-person format, and in some cases we had some of these that were roundtables, and now they might be something else, and vice versa. So I think what I'm thinking is that you want to set up your virtual room with kind of the same mindset that you had, and meaning that you're going to be thinking of the same things. So think about what it is that you want your audience to walk away thinking or feeling, or what kinds of things, as a result of participating in this virtual event, what kinds of things should they be doing, thinking or feeling. So if you start with that end in mind, you probably are going to approach it much in the same way that you would have. It's just going to be in a virtual environment. So obviously you're going to be able to have, you're going to want to design the experience, and you're going to want to use the Zoom tools, some of them that we're going to be showing or maybe sharing with each other that Zoom provides to be able to achieve those goals. And I think what we want to be able to include, it's hard to think about sometimes if you haven't done it already virtually, but we still want to be able to maintain that peer-to-peer experience. So I think what we want to avoid doing, if at all possible, is to have 45 minutes of straight content lecture, which if you've ever designed something to deliver virtually, what you thought was going to be 45 minutes ends up being maybe 15 or 20 minutes. It's surprising how fast you can rip through things. And I talk fast, and so, I know how that goes, because you don't have the people in front of you, and you don't have that constant, visual feedback that you would be getting normally when you're in front of each other. So those are things to keep in mind too. So we're going to go over some tips to help you do that. And that is using some of the interactive features built into Zoom. So there is a chat room, and I don't know, it's not a chat room, it's a chat feature. So what we're using right now is Zoom Meeting, not Zoom Webinar. So there's a difference between those two things. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So Zoom Meeting has a chat feature. And so what we want to do is try to drive our participants to be able to use that chat feature to ask questions. So most people will probably be muted. The audience will be muted during the presentation while you're presenting and showing your screen. While that's going on, they can be using that chat box to talk to each other. They can ask questions. They can have reactions to what you're saying. They can do other things. They can use, and I think there's a couple, let's see, I gotta move my window out of the way here, but there are some ways to sort of participate. You can raise your hand, you can do some different things. And I'm looking for it on where it is on my screen here, but there's a little thing where you can have reactions. You can raise your hand, you can clap your hands. So we want to encourage folks to be using the chat room and be using those features. And then also another thing that I mentioned here is using the video camera feature, and most of us have our video on. So I really want to encourage that. And I think most people these days use video cameras. I know when, seems like last year around this time, you know, most people left their video cameras off, but I really encourage folks to use their video cameras like everyone is today, because I really think that makes a big difference when we can all see each other. So at least as far as the presenters should be using their video cameras. Hi, Michael. So I want to bring that up, that, you know, using the video camera feature, I think, is important. We're all kind of used to doing that at this point. So. So I want to mention too, we're going to have virtual hosts and moderators. You're not in this alone. So we're not going to be handing off a Zoom link to you and waving at you and saying, okay, have a nice presentation. Good luck to you. Every presentation will have 2 layers of support on it besides you and your presenters. We're going to have a virtual host, so that will be an ACUHO-I staff member, and the primary responsibility of that person is to make sure that technically everything runs right. They record the session. That person is also there to assist with any kind of technical issues. Should the Zoom stream get interrupted? Should there be audio issues? Those kinds of things, and to generally be there to support the presentation, sort of like, as I pointed out here, sort of like a virtual concierge. And then I think the host and the moderator, who will actually be it'll be a volunteer moderator. It'll be one of our program committee members that will be assisting as the moderators. We'll be welcoming everyone as they come in. That chat box will be open, and they'll be saying, you know, they'll be seeing who's coming in, welcoming them. There'll be people they know. So we're going to try to have that kind of interaction as people are filing in and kind of taking their seats. And then during the presentation, they will be monitoring the questions and comments. So kind of helping kind of stimulate conversation, because sometimes people in this environment, you know, they're still kind of shy and quiet, and they not sure if they should ask a question, or they want to be the first one to ask the question. And so we can use our moderators to help us with that. If there is something that, you know, a lot of times, and I've actually moderated and hosted a lot of virtual roundtables and webinars. Sometimes I look at the chat box as a moderator, and I see people are like, I didn't quite get something, you know. That moderator can break in and say, whoa, stop. Let's go back to the previous slide. I don't think we quite got something, and have you, you know, go back to make sure that everyone is engaged in the content. So in a lot of ways, you know, in this format, we have some more opportunities to make people kind of feel like they're in that safe space, and make them feel like there's a method for them to ask some specific questions that you might not have in a face-to-face environment. So if you think of it like that, think of this as an opportunity. I think this can be actually really powerful. And then I mentioned here in making the content, it helps make the content relevant to them. We have the ability to kind of capture the chat box as well. So we have the ability to go back afterwards, and as a presenter, you'll be able to see who asked what in the chat box. If there's unanswered questions, you'll have an opportunity to address those as well. And then I would definitely put, you know, kind of front and center, if you can, like I did on the first slide, and I almost forgot to do it, was put, you know, something up that says, hey, we will be recording this. We're going to provide you with the slides and the resources. And that still gets asked a lot in the chat box. And that's also something that moderators and actual virtual hosts can help with too, saying, yes, it'll be recorded. We'll send out the link. We'll get the materials to you. But I think putting it up there in a slide is also helpful. Are there any questions so far? I know I go really fast sometimes. I get a thumbs up. Okay. And I'll watch my chat box to see if there's anything in there. So having an engagement plan, so 45 minutes can go pretty fast. Here it is, 3:24 already, and I have a little less than 20 minutes to finish this up and leave time for questions. So, but what you want to do is try to balance your time, and I know I'm not doing that now because I'm spending most of it talking, but is to balance your content and allow some time for engagement interactions. So kind of a rule of thumb is to kind of chunk it into bites and say, okay, maybe, you know, every 5 to 7 minutes, and that doesn't have to be a hard and fast rule, but if you at least stop a couple of times and think to yourself, okay, this would be a great spot for an engagement. This would be a great spot to take a poll, or this would be a great spot to even in, you know, if you open up your participant box on another screen and you ask people a question, ask them, say, how many people, you know, feel this way? Ask them to raise their hands. It's always a good thing to stop and just do that for a little bit and then jump back into your content. And there are some obviously there are some polling features, and I think people really like to participate in those and see what other people are thinking at the same time. So, and we can always pull in our moderators to assist us with those kinds of things too. So this is try to 5 to 7 minutes, try to engage with either a question or launch a poll to get feedback. And then, you know, people are on mute, but they don't have to be on mute the whole time. We can allow people to unmute themselves and if they're comfortable with doing that, and ask a question live, and we can answer it live. And again, some of it depends on the size of the audience and the time that you have. And using, you know, visual rich royalty-free images wherever we can is always a plus. I know I didn't incorporate really any at all in this presentation, so mine is really content heavy, but I think we've all seen examples of presentations where people do that, and it really adds a lot to it. Using breakout rooms, I've done that a couple of times. It can be very effective, especially if you have a large group and you feel really comfortable doing that in Zoom. Again, we have moderators who will be trained in doing that to assist you with doing that. And I think that might be the kind of thing where if you're, as you're designing your presentation and you're thinking about ahead of time, thinking I might want to use breakout rooms for this, you know, reach out to us. We can help you practice with those, and we can help give you tips on those. We can even practice ahead of time if that makes you feel more comfortable in using those breakout rooms and how they exactly work. But a great way to do that is to allow individuals to get into breakout rooms, and maybe you throw out a question. You know, tell me about a time when, or tell me about a time where you felt, you know, those kinds of questions. Let them go into breakout rooms, discuss that, you know, have them assign a leader in that breakout room and give them a certain amount of time, and then have everyone come back into the main room. And then you could have those sort of group leaders report out on what their group talked about. That's a great exercise to do. Again, I know in 45 minutes, it's hard to think about doing all of that, but it can be done. Okay, so whoops. So again, I was saying this isn't meant to be a Zoom training, but I did want to go over some Zoom basics. So we'll be using ACUHO-I Zoom channels to host all of these. We'll be creating the links for those and providing those to people. We will be using Zoom Meeting, which is different than webinar. So this that we're using now is a meeting format. So it is not a format that allows for people to sign up, register ahead of time. So we won't know exactly who is going to be attending. And it doesn't have a green room, which is one of the big differences between Zoom and webinar. If you're on a webinar, it has a green room. The presenters and hosts can get in there ahead of time. They can practice. And then once you hit the broadcast button, you know, the meeting would start, but we won't be using that except for the larger sessions. Our individual ed sessions will be using meeting just like we are now. So if we want to get, you know, online ahead of time and practice, you know, 30 minutes before our session, we can do that, knowing that some of the participants may be filing into the room and can hear and see us while we're practicing. But I don't think that that is a bad thing. We do it all the time in the bit larger virtual roundtables that we have, and it works out just fine. But I just wanted to let you know, setting the expectation that is kind of functionally how it will work. Are there any questions on that?
And yes, I'm sorry if I missed it. What was your decision to go with meeting versus webinar? I apologize.
No, that's okay. That's an excellent question. A lot of it has to do with availability of channels. So we have a limited number of webinar channels, and we're trying to reserve those for the larger general sessions as much as we can. I would have liked to have used webinar for every single presentation, except for webinar doesn't let you do breakout groups that I know of. So sort of each format has its pros and cons in a way, but that's why we're doing it this way.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I have a quick question. If you do have a webinar format, will you have, at least for sessions where you anticipate having a lot of questions, are you anticipating having a Q&A option? Because when we did those for incoming students, we found it very, very useful to have one person monitoring the Q&A and answering, and also feeding questions to the presenter, because it's really, really difficult to read the chat and separate out the sort of the incidental comments from an actual question.
I agree. That's a really good question, and the Q&A function is a feature that I really miss on Meeting that doesn't, at least to my knowledge, exist in Meeting. I think it's only in Webinar. So we'll be using the chat feature in the Meeting, for our ed sessions, and we won't have the Q&A available to us. So that's going to be the challenge out to the virtual host and the moderator too. And I know exactly what you're talking about. It's because people use the chat box to say hi to each other and have side conversations and maybe have reactions to things, and then it is a job to go through and find those questions, and we'll definitely be using our moderators and technical hosts to assist the presenters and saying, okay, I have some questions, and not expecting the presenters to have to be monitoring that and looking through that while they're trying to present.
Thank you.
Laura, you have a question about, will each session have a unique link?
Yes, each session will have a unique meeting link. And we'll be creating those, in fact, right after this meeting, I have a meeting to work on creating those, and so we'll be getting those links out pretty soon. Any others before I move on? Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure we talked about that how this was going to work in the meeting format versus the webinar, because it is very different. It sounds like a lot of people have experience with both of those, the pros and cons of both of those, so that's an important distinction. Within meeting though, we will still have obviously the ability to share screens and documents. There are the polling functions, as I demonstrated a little while ago. We can use the breakout rooms, and then this is outside of Zoom, but we do have the actual housing of where all people are going to access the content is actually going to be in our learning management system, and our learning management system has the ability to do quizzes and an actual graded quiz. And if you so desire, it's not mandatory, but if you wanted to incorporate that, I think it would be kind of a neat idea to look at your learning objectives and say, okay, at the end of this, how many people felt that we achieved the learning objectives? And I'm not saying your quiz has to be learning objectives. I'm just saying you could have a quiz of 4 or 5 questions that were key concepts that you really wanted people to walk away with. And this is kind of your opportunity to say, well, how well did I do on that? You could provide those 5 questions to us ahead of time. We'll put it in a quiz in Canvas, and there will be a link to that quiz at the end, and we can direct folks to that, and they can go and take that quiz, and they'll take the quiz and they'll either pass it or not, and they'll get a little confetti fall at the end of it, and it's kind of a fun little thing. And I think people really like that too. Like, I attended this, did I learn anything from it? Let's see if I did. Let's see if I can answer the questions as a challenge, right? And sort of get that satisfaction out of, that was time well spent. I got it. So that is an opportunity as well. So I wanted to let you know about that, and I'll put I have my contact information on the slide at the end of this. So please, grab that and reach out to me, about that, about if you want to practice Zoom, or any questions that you might have. So,
Lori, there's a question about where do you find the poll function in Zoom?
So it is, if you look at your, well, you don't have it because I'm the meeting host, so I can't show you where it is now. But if you open up a Zoom meeting, there is an icon on the bottom where so you have on your control panel, you have like chat, participants, a couple of different things. On my screen, it says poll, and you basically I set this up I set that poll up earlier today. You click on the poll. It's very easy. You type in your question, you program in the answers, you click save on it, and that poll will be there for you when you go to present. And you just hit poll, it shows up, people take it, you end the poll, you share the poll, and then you exit out of it.
So will the primary presenters then be set up as hosts as well as the co-presenters, along with the ACUHO-I staff and
we can do that. We can do that, or if you'd rather us run the poll, if you want to tell us what the poll is ahead of time, we'll program it in there for you and just pull that up.
We're going to, hi, I'm Melissa McDonald. I work with the program committee. We are going to be reaching out to, as we get our moderators signed up, the moderators are actually the 10 members of our program committee that was working originally on the conference and now has been working on the summit. And so we are going to be training them on how to do all of these features, and they'll reach out to all of the presenters in advance just to make, and the ACUHO-I host, to make sure we're all on the same page. So if you have a poll that you want to be set up for you, or a quiz, you know, so we'll be doing some of that reach out as well to make sure we're all on the same page before we get to the summit.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Melissa. So that moderator is really kind of the glue that's holding together all the different components, you know, between you've got the staff virtual host, you've got the moderator, and then you've got the presenters, and then you have the audience. So you've got little different components, and that moderator will be a key person. Okay. Whoops. Okay, so things on the day of, and I may have mentioned some of these earlier already, but arriving early and practicing is a good thing. We're going to direct our moderators and hosts to log in early, and just how early, I don't know that we've established that yet, Melissa, but we will, because I think that the moderator will be the person who will, you know, in that communication that Melissa mentioned, you know, we recommend that you log in, you know, X minutes, you know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes ahead of time. I mean, certainly no one wants to arrive 2 minutes before the presentation and give their presentation, unless you like doing that, but that would make me feel really nervous. So I would definitely recommend logging on much earlier than that, and we will take steps to make sure that the platform is open and available before that time so that we can do that. And again, practicing with colleagues of your own ahead of time, or friends and family, or whatever you feel like you need to do, highly recommend doing that. I do it with my kids all the time. They hate it. Testing your audio and video, you know, make sure you have a stable internet connection. I mean, sometimes, you know, the best laid plans, you think you have a stable internet connection, and then darn it, 5 minutes before you got to present, it's not for some reason, and that happens, and we'll work around it. But ahead of time, as much as you can, you know, ensuring that those kinds of things are stable is a really good thing. I think I went through probably about 2 weeks of using a really awful headset before someone finally said to me, "Lori, you just sound like I can't hear you at all." So, you know, try to test out those kinds of things. I always tend to think if you have a headset, sometimes that audio sounds a lot better than not having a headset, but that isn't always true. So I would test it out ahead of time and see what others think. So far, everyone that's spoken today, I can hear really well. So whatever it is you're doing, it's good. We are going to have a professional captioning service, so it won't be like Google captioning services. We're actually going to have a real live captioning service that will be doing the captioning as we're presenting. You won't have to do anything with that, but I wanted to make you aware that that was going to be happening, so you're not surprised when you're seeing the captions going. So that's a thing that's going to be happening. The last bullet here, infomercials, you're probably wondering what in the world that is. It is some of our corporate friends are going to be providing some short, very short, in fact, we said like 15 seconds, 15 to 30 seconds. You know, when you watch a YouTube video, before the video comes on, you get a couple minutes of something, a sponsor. So we're going to be having that, and that's kind of the spirit in which we're doing that, and so that's how it'll work. So that we'll coordinate that. You won't have to coordinate that. So we'll have that come on shortly before the presentation starts, and we'll have some more information on that as that sort of develops. We're still working on that piece, but I wanted to bring up that that's a thing that we're going to be doing. Okay, so what you can do now. If you have a photo and bio on some of the pages that we're setting up, I mentioned that we were going to be setting this up inside of our LMS. It's at the actual vehicle that kind of drives the conference. If you want that up on your page, that's going to list your title and the link on for people to, you know, access the Zoom presentation, please by all means send it to us. We'd be happy to put that up there. It's not necessary, but it looks nice. I think it enhances the presentation when people can see who the presenters are ahead of time and know a little bit about them. I already mentioned stable internet before, testing your audio and video. I am going to paste a link. In fact, if one of my other, either Melissa or Marcus has that link that we were showing earlier, we do have the sessions listed on the website, and some of you may already have come across that. I wanted everyone to look at that because I want to ensure the accuracy of it, because I know when we sent out our initial poll weeks ago when we asked you to present live, I think we asked the question, do you have any presenters that are going to be changing, and is your description and title going to stay the same? And you submitted your answers, and I did my best to incorporate those. But if I missed it or I got it wrong, please let us know. We want to make sure that the date that you're presenting at the time, the day and time that we said that you were, if you weren't, let us know. If the description is incorrect or you just need to update it, and I'm sure that's very possible as you start working through this and creating your presentation, it's very possible that that may change. Let us know. We'll keep updating that as you send it to us. We're going to chat that link to you so that you can click on it and take a look. But it's also on the ACUHO-I webpage. If you go to the ACUHO-I webpage and you go to educational events and you click on the virtual summit, there's a link there that says education. That'll also take you right to that page.
The link is up there now. Do we need, another question is, do we need to account for that time in our 45 minutes? I'm assuming the infomercials is the question.
Yeah, I would account for that. And that's not to say we're going to try to keep to the 45 minutes. I mean, if it goes over a minute or two, because there's going to be time allowance for, again, people still getting in and getting settled and muting their microphones and all, just almost like in a real setting. People are coming in, jumping from one presentation to another and coming in and getting themselves settled. So does that answer the question? I hope so. And they should be very short. Those infomercials will be very short. I mean, we're asking 15, no more than 30 seconds. So they should be very short. And then I put the word practice up here. Practice, practice, practice as much as you can. And we were definitely willing, reach out to us if you want help practicing. I'm offering to do that as well. So I'd be glad to help you if you want to practice a Zoom presentation. And I'd love to see what people are planning.
Hi, Lori. This is Bridget Suplet. I am Lynn Jeniger's colleague. I just clicked on that link and don't see our session. Do I reach out to you about that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That means I messed up.
No. We've received every other update, so I can contact you about that.
Yeah, and it could be that in the transition between me saying, here's the programs, put them up, it just got missed. So, but that's why I want everyone to look at, because I don't want that to happen. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for noticing that. Let's see. Okay, I'm at the end with 2 minutes, just 2 minutes for questions. Oh, we could go over 45 minutes, but I know that people have things to do and places to be, so I want to open it up for any other questions that anyone has.
Lori, this is Kathy Hobgood. I wanted to ask, and it's certainly not a deal breaker, but the session that my colleagues and I have been working on How Women Rise, when we did it at the regional level, people had some get real sort of moments that they might not have, knowing that the session's being recorded. Is there an option if a session might be thought to be more impactful, if folks can be more candid? Is that even an option, or that we should discuss, or no?
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but it's a great question. Because there may be others who have that same feeling, and it's an excellent question. And I can't imagine that we would say, no, you must record this. It's I mean, we want to record it because we want people anyone who missed it, said, oh, I want to go to another session, to be able to see it. But at the same time, I totally understand what you're saying. I think that probably requires some conversation and thought for us. So we will discuss that and figure out what's the right thing to do there.
Absolutely. I see both sides of that. Absolutely.
Yep, totally. Thanks for bringing that up. Great question.
Hi this is Erica. When I looked earlier today at the virtual summit website and looked at the education, the link to the ed sessions, I saw the titles, but I didn't see descriptions.
There should be, if there's a little, it looks like a little blue plus sign.
Oh, okay. I must have just missed it visually. That's okay. I'll look again.
It's interesting because you're not the only person that has said that, including some of our own staff has have asked the same question. So that makes me think that we need to display that another way because
it's not really intuitive.
No, it's not. So excellent point. I'll bring that up.
Thank you.
Any others? Anything that I missed, Melissa or Stuart or Marcus?
Not that I can think of.
Not that I can think of, Lori. Thank you so much for hosting this session. I think it's very helpful. This session is also being recorded. So if you have a colleague that was not able to attend, we'll be sure to get that out to everybody.
Yep. And thank you all. Thank you all for attending. Honestly, I should have said this right at the beginning, but I didn't. But so appreciative of the time and effort that this takes at this time to do something like this. And I just don't have words to express, you know, how grateful we are that you have agreed to do this. And, you know, I just want to make sure that I say that that's how we all feel. And we really do appreciate it. So again, my contact information is up on the screen here, and you probably are all tired of getting emails from me already anyway and have my contact information. So please feel free to just, you know, email me or reach out to me directly with any questions that you may have, and I look forward to it. So, and there will be more to come on this. This will not be the last time we will send out communications and information about this. So we'll be talking in the next couple weeks for sure. Hope everyone has a great afternoon.
Thanks, Lori.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Lori and Marcus and everyone.
Stuart, you're still on here with me? All right, I had to figure out how to stop the recording. Do I want to